And I wanted to talk to you today about speaking their languages, how you engage different audiences with content that's meaningful for them. And the reason I thought this would be a really interesting topic is because it's something that we have to tackle at the Washington Post every day. We reach 1 in 3 Americans, so it's pretty much everybody, every kind of person with every kind of interest, and advertisers are coming to us to reach every kind of person in every kind of way. So we had to figure out how to do that, how to really speak the language of these different types of people and reach them on different levels. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today, and I hope you find it useful for the content that you're creating. So first, this is how we approach content. We think of it as 3 legs of the stool. The first leg being next-gen technology. So that's both in terms of how we're distributing the content, reaching the right audience that would be interested in it, but also in terms of the storytelling itself and how can we surprise and delight people by using technology in different ways to tell stories. The Washington Post investigative lens, we take this very seriously. We're held to the same journalistic standards as the Washington Post newsroom, and we really pride ourselves on creating truly investigative pieces for brands. Data and insights, which underlies everything we do, and I'm going to dive really into that today. Now, don't get too scared. I know this audience, because I want to make sure I'm speaking your language, and I know you're not data scientists, and I'm not going to overload you with tons of data, but it is really underlying how we get to know our audience, and that's why it's important. And I'm going to balance it out with some really fun content and also with animals, so be prepared. All right, we are data obsessed. So what do I mean by that? We are looking at data from many, many different sources. So we're looking at how our newsroom content is performing. We're looking at how the content that we create in the studio, the custom content, is performing. We're also testing everything we do in a UX lab in front of our readers, seeing how they engage with it, how it performs versus competitors' content versus newsroom content. And then we're also doing audience interest surveys. So this is first-party data. We ask our audience what they're interested in, and we take all this data and we layer it together with art, right, to come up with cultural insights, brand insights, and editorial insights. And then we create content that hits the sweet spot between those 3 insights. And I'm going to walk you through what I mean by all that with case studies. So we have a diverse array of solutions. This is very important because we're trying to reach a diverse audience. We need to have a lot of tactics to be able to reach them. So this gives you a sense of the kinds of tactics that we take. We have something called perspectives. These are essentially op-eds. So these are for heads of companies to set forth their opinions and the opinions of the company on diverse issues. We have newsroom-style content. So that's within the newsroom-style format that our newsroom is using for the 600 pieces of content that it is launching every single day. And we have visually driven formats. These are formats where it's mostly video or images, widescreen, very cinematic, and there's some floating copy on top. And then we have bespoke execution. So these are custom designed and developed for the advertiser based on their goals, based on the audience that they're trying to reach, and these insights that I'm going to walk you through. So you'll see a lot of examples of bespoke executions today. All right, so why does all this matter? Why do we care about this data? Why are we sifting through it? Why are we trying to create these insights? It's in order to get to know our audience so that we can create content that's relevant to them, because if the content is relevant to you, it will resonate, whether you're a person or a cat. Told you there'd be animals. So audience-driven storytelling, this is literally how we think about all the content we do. We think about it by audience. And the audience categories are influencer audience. I'm going to dive into a little bit what these mean in a minute. The business audience, and the consumer audience. So influencers, who are they? We think about them as the Davos set. These are thought leaders, people who have significant sway over policy, business, financial, media, culture trends, or other trends. This is the heart of the Washington Post audience because we rank #1 among opinion leaders. And if you think about the Washington Post, it makes a lot of sense. We are aiming to shape their opinions and inspire them to influence others to take action. So I'm going to show you some examples of what's really worked in trying to reach this influencer audience. So one is a piece for Optum Insurance, and I'm going to walk you through the insights, and I'll show you the piece. So the cultural insight is that we have a country in crisis. Every 13 minutes, someone is dying from an opioid overdose. And the editorial insight is that our audience at Washington Post Reader is trying to make sense of this. We have gotten over 600,000 page views on the top 5 stories on this topic from the newsroom over the past year. And then Optum, what they're trying to do is raise awareness of this evidence-based approach that they've taken to trying to fight the epidemic. So we took these insights, cultural, editorial, brand insight, and created this program. It's called Working to End the Epidemic, and it's a multimedia piece. We went to a town in Massachusetts, took a very investigative approach. This town has one of the highest incidents of opioid epidemic in the nation, and we interviewed people in the town that were struggling with the epidemic and people that were trying to treat them and help them as well. And then we created a multimedia piece that moves between education, so where we're actually trying to show our audience what's this crisis all about. You know, how do opioids work on the brain and body, and how has why has it risen so much in recent years, and how we can fight it. But we move between these educational elements and the emotional human toll of the crisis with interviews with people from the town who are struggling with opioid addiction, people from treatment centers in the town, law enforcement officials. This is a woman who, when she was a cheerleader in high school, she broke her arm and was given an opioid prescription, became addicted, and that led her down a terrible path, and she's now on the road to recovery. So it's these very emotional stories, and they're really resonating with the thought leader audience that we were trying to reach. But then again, we marry that with these more macro educational concepts and interactive motion graphics and infographics within this one piece. So this piece was extremely successful, both in terms of high time spent and engagement with the piece, and also in terms of the scale that we reached. And we were able to reach true influencers. Katie Couric tweeted about it. We were all very proud of that. That was an organic, non-paid promotion. So this was considered a very successful piece in this category. Okay, so another really successful influencer piece that I'm excited to show you was for Siemens. It's about e-vehicles, and these were the insights that we derived. The culture insight is that the future is urban. So nearly 2/3 of the world is going to be living in cities by 2050, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. And our audience wants to get smart about smart cities. How are we going to create cities that are going to deal with this huge population growth in cities? They're very interested in alternative energy sources, sustainable development. These stats all come from our proprietary audience surveys, where we're trying to deeply get to know the interests of our audience. And then the brand insight here, so Siemens wants to raise awareness of how cities need to develop infrastructure to get ready for e-vehicles. E-vehicles operate really differently from gas-powered vehicles. How are cities going to get ready for it? So we married all these insights together and created this piece. It's part of a series. The series actually transports you inside a smart city of the future with 3D models that are animating on the screen, and the article unfolds within them. And we take people also on a trip around the world to see what other countries are doing, what other cities are doing to get ready for the e-vehicle explosion that's going to be happening soon. Okay, so moving from the thought leader influencer audience, the other category that's very important for us are business people. And when we talk about business people, we're talking about business managers, IT decision makers, end users of business technologies. These are future seekers. They want to understand what's coming, what innovation they need to be prepared for, and we want to help them do that and show them how they can do it using the advertiser's technologies. So a good example, it's out right now. It's actually not even completed, the series. It's for AT&T Business, and it's about how to get ready for the 5G world that's coming. So we looked at 3 different insights to develop this program. The cultural insight. So 66% of organizations plan to deploy 5G by next year, right, which is pretty crazy. Our newsroom has done something really interesting. They've developed these mobile stories, which I'm going to show you an example because that's what we've done here. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. But what they've done is they've created these very mobile-first stories inspired by the Google Stamp format, and they've done really, really well. And we felt like, okay, this is a story about 5G powering mobile. We want to tell the story in the most mobile way possible. It's kind of meta. And then the brand insight, AT&T is really at the forefront of the 5G rollout, which is currently already in 21 cities and will be nationwide by the first half of next year. And they want to arm these business decision makers with insights about how to think about 5G, especially around areas like security and training and innovation. So what we did was we created these mobile stories. This is 2 of them. It's a longer series, but it hasn't all rolled out yet. On your mobile device, you actually tap through the stories with your finger to get to the next screen, and each one is animating and telling you about how you can get prepared for 5G as a business leader. Okay, so another great example in the business category is for HPE that's just launched, but it's doing extremely well, and I think is a little surprising for this category as well. So the cultural insight here is that emerging tech like artificial intelligence, 5G, and Wi-Fi are boosting the growing popularity of video games. By 2021, it's going to reach 557 million viewers and generate $1.7 billion in revenue. This is a gigantic force in our cultural zeitgeist right now. And it's not just the general population, it's tech leaders who are playing video games. So it's not the guy in the basement, the teenager that you might think, but actually these tech decision makers, they are 69% more likely than the average adult to play video games at least once a week. That surprised me. All of these stats are part of the reason that our newsroom is going to be launching a gaming site. So the brand insight, HPE is going to be unleashing innovation across every industry in the 5G era, certainly not just gaming, but gaming is one of them and seemed like a really great way to show how this innovation is going to be unleashed and in a way that's going to be personally relevant to the people we're trying to reach, these tech decision makers. So that's what we did with Gaming the Future. We created an interactive article where we profile 3 different visionaries that are driving the future of gaming in different ways. And then we also get into what the esports arena is going to look like in the future. There's some nice interactive infographics within this in addition to the profiles. There's a timeline. That's what this is, which is the evolution of storage in gaming. This sounds kind of boring, but it's actually interesting because as things get more technologically advanced, you need to upgrade your storage. You've got to store more data. So this walks you through how that's changing over the years with gaming.